It is time for our Main Street Magazine on Robin Hood Radio segment featuring Thorunn from Main Street Magazine. Good morning, Thorunn. How are you this morning?
Good. How about you?
Can't complain. Can't complain. I just found that last week's edition that we did, for some reason, never got uploaded. It must have been stuck somewhere in cyberspace. So I uploaded last week's edition as soon as I found that out. But one thing I wanted to talk about, which we haven't talked about much since we've been talking about Main Street Magazine on the air, is the feature that you do that I think is a pretty interesting feature. And that is when you look at what you call friendly faces, meet our neighbors and visitors and friends.
So I had a similar publication that I started with a former partner up in Chatham years ago, and we had a feature called Man on the Street, and it became kind of the one of the favorite pages to look to because it's the mentality of when you're at the grocery store, you look at the tabloids to see who's in the paper and that type of thing. So this is kind of our version of who's in the paper this month. And people always flip through it, and that's one of the pages that people often comment about.
And do you pick six different people each month?
Yeah, 6 different people, and sometimes we try to tie in, like in March when it's our animal issue. Ashley suggested when we started way back with that, she's like, instead of people, let's make them animals. So we have animals in that one, and then I think last year for our transportation issue, we had cars. But normally it's 9 times out of 10 it's people in there.
All right, another article which has caught my eye, and of course we are all knowing about this already, but there's a nice article on, it's called "They're There for Us," and the Sharon Hospital. It's on what they do in the items of COVID-19.
So Christine, that's her entrepreneur feature, and it came together perfectly that she was able to get a hold of the CEO there and talk to some of the folks at Sharon Hospital. Kind of as we talked about last time, we kind of turned our June issue into how people are pivoting and doing things after after COVID, and Sharon Hospital was an obvious choice. So I was very excited that she was able to get a hold of the right people, and they were able to give her a few minutes to discuss. And obviously, healthcare facilities are some of the ones who have been, tested the most, if you will, during this time, and have definitely had to make adjustments, and are literally saving people's lives and have come through for all communities. So in our neck of the woods, that's Sharon Hospital and the New Vaughn's health system. And some of the stories that we've heard out of there are just, remarkable. And I myself drove by a couple of months back when they had just put up the tent, the National Guard, and it was kind of weird and eerie seeing that, I will say, just because it's like stuff you see in the movies or on TV, and it's like, oh wow, that's happening here.
Just if you ever wonder, folks, just go to the movie Contagion. It's a great movie, and I'll tell you what, it'll open your eyes to pandemics. If you don't believe in pandemics, look at this movie because it is based on WHO information, and the Sharon Hospital has done a great job. They were one of the first hospitals that really limited access to that hospital in a real strict way, because they just could not afford any mistakes, and they didn't make any mistakes. They've done a great job so far. Now, yeah. I have to laugh about your article on waffles because years ago I went to a restaurant, and it was, I want to say on my way down south, and there was a place that made waffle sandwiches. Waffle sandwiches. You could have chicken salad on a waffle. You could have steak on a waffle. You could have a hamburger, a cheeseburger on a waffle. But you've got a whole story on just plain waffles.
Jesse is our in-house baker, and I don't for your listeners out there who may not be know of her. She's a cookbook author and is pretty fantastic, and has held some local events too. We co-sponsored an event with her at Noble Horizons in February, and I had the great honor of actually trying a lot of her stuff that she baked there. And I got to tell you that there's a difference between baking and baking. So we're quite lucky to have Jessie share her recipes with us every month. And so this month she did a yeasted waffle. And I don't know about you, but it sounds pretty good. So it's, but she's quite funny, and, her humor comes through in it. And for anyone interested, you should follow her on Facebook and find her YouTube and Instagram, because she's quite the character. Well, and her recipes really reflect that. And They're quite delicious.
Well, I'm old enough to remember. See, my mother was not a good cook. She could cook two things: Hawaiian chicken and peppered steak. But my grandmother, who lived with us, and we lived with her, she would have an old-fashioned waffle maker, and she would put out the waffles. And we didn't necessarily always have maple syrup. Sometimes we had fruit on them. Sometimes it was maple syrup. Sometimes she would put eggs on them, sunny side up eggs and stuff like that. Waffles are one of those things. They're kind of like crepes. You can have them for breakfast, lunch, dinner, or dessert.
Oh, for sure. We have this very similar thing in Iceland. Waffles are, usually around 4 o'clock when company comes over with whipped cream and jam.
Drew Wilder, who used to be the sales manager of KZE, he used to make Belgian waffles, and it's got to be bad for you, but it's good for you. So that's all I can say.
It's good for the soul, right?
That's right. Now, a story that just won't go away, and it's been with us since COVID-19, and you have the residential real estate market. And once again, just this week, stories have come out about about rentals and about actual home purchases, how they have gone up in the COVID-19 pandemic, and also that like Kent Center School is expecting to have 18 to 20 more children in their elementary school grades 1 through 6 this year, which will help them stabilize because they're losing about 20-some graduates out of the elementary school. And you've got, once again, a story on the COVID-19 impact on the real estate market.
Christine has, as I mentioned earlier with her entrepreneur feature, she has been with us from day one at Mainstreet and has always done a real estate feature. And it was obvious that we should focus on, for real estate this month, the impact that it has had. And it's so interesting because in March, when we were working on our April issue and talking to our advertisers, including the real estate advertisers, a few of them dropped out because they were super worried about what would happen. And then as it progressed, some of them couldn't show, but then, things quickly turned around as we saw that this COVID thing was not going away. And, we, besides Christine, who we obviously talk to on a regular basis, and she wasn't stopping by, our office during this time, but she herself is a realtor, and then some of our other realtor friends and advertisers, they were just swamped. Everything was selling, everything was renting, and just because people were getting the heck out of the city, and were making around our area, they're full-time residents, and that's happened more and more. And I actually had a property that I sold during this time, but I'll full disclaimer, we were already had agreed upon a contract and everything before COVID really hit, but they were the folks who bought the house from me. They were wanted to push it through so that no one else would snag it during this time, because their realtor was telling them, like, you're doing well because everything is being bought up right now.
All right.
So,
well, it's just the way it is, and we happen to be in that perfect location. And South County also has the same effect. Southern Litchfield County, and people just want to get out of the city, and it's the young kids that will be enrolled in schools, not necessarily high school kids, or because they're basically already committed for. One final
right.
story this morning that I want to talk about, and it's got a great picture with it, and that is Call of the Wild.
Yeah. Is that the one with Caleb?
Yes, absolutely.
Yes. Just because we have so many titles and I'm working so many months ahead, I have to double check sometimes. Caleb is Mary O'Neill's son, youngest son. And so when Mary and I were talking about this issue, and we've talked about Caleb and his birding, his fishing, and all the extracurricular activities that he does. So we somehow came upon, like, oh, let's, have a little piece by, Caleb. Caleb's going to write this, about his outings. And I've said to Mary, he should start his own YouTube channel. The kid is funny. I shouldn't say kid. He's in high school. He's very well spoken. He's articulate, writes very well, and he knows what he's talking about. And so I had a lot of fun with that. He had fun with it. Mary, oversees, make sure, that checks the spelling and all that. Not that it needs to be done, but, good mom / co-writer. And so, Caleb has written for us, I think, once before as well. And, I just love it when kids like that are, ambitious, and they're really into, especially outdoorsy things, and kind of becomes, a little bit of an expert in the area. And, when it comes to the birds and kayaking, fishing, all that, Caleb knows what he's talking about. So when the pandemic's over, I know Caleb, he loves to go birding with folks, and he's always, looking for new birding partners to go with. So.
All right. Now, are you already must be well into it, working into the July issue, right?
We are. We actually extended our deadline. So we have this week, hint, hint, if anyone wants to, advertise this with us in this issue. But July is usually one of our biggest issues of the year, one of the most popular, because it's the height of growing season, and it's our food and drink issue. And we've got some, pretty exciting stories in it, all kind of somehow related to food and drink. And we were all kind of running behind anyway, so that the fact that we were able to get an extra week, has helped everyone. Plus, we had some extra ads come in, which means we had to get a couple extra editorial. But it's all good, and we're working on that right now. And we hope to go to press early next week. So, but we're going to probably close out Monday around noon for all advertisers, but we're taking reservations for ads until Friday.
All right, and that web address is mainstreetmag.com, mainstreetmag.com, also available throughout the area. Kristen, we'll speak to you again next week.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Take care. That is a Main Street Magazine here on Robin Hood Radio. Of course, you can find Main Street Magazine once again on the web at mainstreetmag.com.